The weather for Hunterdon County. It is mostly cloudy today with a high near 71 expected. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low around 52. Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 75. And Thursday night, partly cloudy with a low of 55. Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 82. And Friday night, a chance of showers. Saturday, showers and thunderstorms likely after 9 a.m. and showers Saturday evening and showers likely on Sunday. It is currently 68 degrees.
Are you looking to get your message in front of a qualified audience through all the noise out there today? Consider taking an advertisement out on Hunterdon Chamber Radio, WHCR DB, the voice of business. Contact the Chamber today at 908-782-7115 or give us an email at info@hunterdon-chamber.org.
When friends are not enough and you are struggling with depression, anxiety, or addictions, it's time to seek out help. Mental health is one of the most important building blocks to a healthy life. Tune into Counselors Chat every Wednesday at noon and listen to many topics that pertain to good mental health. With Ruth Altamura-Roll, a licensed professional counselor, as your host, you will learn about many facets of good mental health. Let's remove the stigma. Go to www.altarollcounselor.net for more information about my practice. And please follow me on Counselors Chat on Facebook. Remember, Counselors Chat every Wednesday at noon. I wish you good mental health. And good afternoon. I am Ruth Altamura-Roll. I have my master's in counseling. I'm nationally certified as a counselor, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and your host for Counselors Chat. I bring Counselors Chat to you every week so that you can learn about good mental health. And today my topic is actually brain health. June is National Brain Health Awareness Month, so being our brain is the center part of where we would have mental health, because it's, our brain, mental, there's a connection there. Anyway, I really wanted to talk about it because it is important. So there are, and I guess as a mental health care provider, it is, like I said earlier, just a thing that I promote, good mental health. I've said it before and I will say it again. We do go and get our bodies checked every year, check our cholesterol, our blood pressure, sugar levels, weight, all of that stuff. We think about hopefully what we are eating, exercise. We get our cars checked out. We do all those things, but we don't really do a mental health check. And I think that that's important. Does that necessarily mean that we need to get into counseling? No, not really. At the same time, I do think that it's important if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, addictions of all kinds, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive, just relationship issues. There's so many reasons to seek out counseling. Last week, my show was about cognitive behavioral therapy, and the thing that I talked about is when we notice chaos in our lives, if we notice unmanageability in any way, it could be that I'm feeling emotional distress. It may be that I am feeling emotionally overwhelmed. I may find that I'm crying a lot. I'm disorganized. My relationships are suffering. I'm not doing well at my job. There's many things that are going on that may be the indicators that I've got a mental health issue. And seeking out counseling is one of the best ways that you can get help. So as I said, my topic today is about brain health and brain wellness. And I'm going to say I get my ideas. Sometimes people will send me some information. My mom actually is in an assisted living program, and I get their monthly newsletter. And the very top thing that came in the mail yesterday was June is Brain Health Awareness Month. So I thought, well, there's a good topic. So oftentimes what I do, and which is why you see me go through my iPad, is I Google, and it comes up with some suggestions that I use as, I guess, sort of a template to, as you notice, I don't necessarily sit and read it, but I do refer to the things that I see here. So, good mental health. There are many, many things that we can do to have good mental health. And one of the things really in here, I'm going to say, is brain activity. It's the if you don't use it, you lose it idea. So I have actually, when I worked in the drug and alcohol field, I actually had clients who came into treatment who got as far as 10th grade, dropped out, used drugs for years, was 40 years old when entering therapy, forgot how to read because she didn't use it. A good example, I took Spanish, 7th grade, 8th grade, all through high school. I don't really use it, so I don't really remember it. So that's part of what happens. And so having brain exercises, or just doing things that engage your interest, reading, doing puzzles, enjoying a hobby, anywhere that you're learning more, experiencing more, doing research. My husband and I like to watch historical movies or programs, and oftentimes what I will do, because we're history buffs, is I will Google, what's going on? I want to know the real story behind this king or that queen or this time period, and I like to do that and learn more about history, and that's always something that's fun for me, as well as learning about my own field, having to continue to get education to keep my license. I need 20 hours every year of continuing education units to maintain my license. So all of that is engaging my intellect. And when we do that, when we have those types of conversations with people, when we do the research, when we look up information, we are actually building our mental health. So that's important. Doing puzzles, word puzzles, even just any kind of Sudoku, any of those kinds of things. They actually exercise the brain. So that is one aspect of brain health that I think is important. Another aspect is nutrition. So our brain functions with a lot of amino acids, which feed neurotransmitters, electrical impulses. Our brain needs carbohydrates to function, B vitamins to function. And when I say B vitamins, I don't mean just B12. I mean the whole family of B vitamins. And so eating healthy is really important. So when we eat junk food, we're supplying our brain with junk. So, if you put a really low-grade, cheap gasoline in your car, it's going to backfire, it's going to sputter, it's just not going to work well. So we want to put a better octane in our car so that our engine works properly. It's the same thing with food. Now, food is such an interesting thing because we enjoy it, we celebrate with it, we socialize with it, and we don't necessarily think of it as something that's going to feed our brain, something that's going to feed our body so that it works better. So thinking about the kind of foods you eat, and if you're eating, if you're an emotional eater, which was a number of shows back, that also doesn't help the way your brain functions. So you want to use things and eat things that have high in omega-3 fatty acids, like fish. Salmon is fantastic. Do research. Do some Google. Foods for your brain. Avocados, nuts, a lot of those things. Walnuts are fantastic. Brain food. So that's another aspect of keeping your brain healthy. Are you eating too much salt? Are you not drinking enough fluids? Our brain can dehydrate. That's part of what happens with alcohol. Alcohol actually dehydrates our brain. So you get up with a hangover. Part of that is your brain is detoxifying from the alcohol. Part of it is because your brain is now dehydrated from the alcohol. Healthy brain, includes not taking drugs, not drinking alcohol. There was an interesting program on Netflix that I watched several months ago of a study done in Britain about how even one alcoholic beverage affects the brain. Yes, alcohol is legal. We can choose to drink or not drink. My choice is to suggest to people, don't drink very often, and have a drink. It does damage the brain. Luckily, the brain can repair itself. I am not an advocate for recreational marijuana. I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. That's my master's is in counseling. I specialize in drug and alcohol counseling. I've worked in the drug and alcohol field for, I'm going to say about 15, 16 years. I would not make recreational marijuana legal. Are there aspects of marijuana that may be healthy for us? Yeah, that's very possible. I won't say that it isn't, but to use it recreationally, to use it as a mood altering, that's not healthy for our brain. As is heroin, cocaine, gambling, sex addictions, I could go on and on. So they're behavioral. And remember, all that stuff happens in our brain. If I'm addicted to gambling, it's because I'm addicted to the adrenaline rush in my head. Okay? So that's important to remember. One of the things that's also important to brain health is exercise. So studies shows the more sedentary your life, the slower your brain functions. So it's important to get out there, go for a walk, join a gym, garden, do things that stimulate your body. When we stimulate our body, we stimulate our mind. It gets the blood flowing throughout our body. When the blood is flowing throughout our body, our lungs work better, our heart pumps more, we get more oxygen. If more oxygen feeds the brain functions better on more oxygen. That's why exercise works really well as part of good mental health. In addition, when we exercise, our brain produces endorphins. Now, endorphins are a very natural painkiller. You see, if we did not have endorphins and we were exercising or walking or gardening, dancing, you name it, our joints are rubbing like this against each other. And just think about that. That's really painful. So what the endorphins do is it prevents that pain from happening. So we actually end up feeling better emotionally as well as physically when we exercise. So that's important. Well, I'm going to take a little commercial break. One of the things that I'm going to say I'm excited about is I'm getting so much better getting onto live streaming. As you know, it's been several weeks that I actually didn't do it because I was having trouble, and luckily I'm getting a lot better. Now I'm doing it all on my own, and I've got someone just standing over my shoulder, and hopefully from this point I'm going to just do it on my own. It does get me a little bit behind schedule, just going through all the steps, but I'm glad that I'm able to bring you Counselors Chat streaming live. If you want to watch, please go onto my Facebook Counselors Chat, and you can watch the program live, or you can actually see it at any later time, because it will remain on Counselors Chat. So off to a commercial break. I am Ruth Altamura-Roll, your host for this program.
Advancing Hunterdon is an ever-sharp focus on the growth and prosperity of Hunterdon County's businesses. Advancing Hunterdon engages businesses within and throughout the county that are responsive to a call to action as the next chapter in business success. If your business and organization wants to get engaged, contact the Chamber today at 908-782-7115 or give us an email at info@hunterdon-chamber.org. Advancing Hunterdon, a roadmap for economic growth for the business community of Hunterdon. You're listening to WHCR-DB, HunterdonChamberRadio.com. Brought to you by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business.
This is Tony Clark, paraplanner at Pat & Heidi & Associates. Americans believe they should be in charge of their own future, how they will live tomorrow. Since 1894, Ameriprise Financial has worked for their clients' futures, helping millions of Americans retire on their terms, when they want, where they want, doing what they want. Today, Pat & Heidi & Associates, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., remains true to the vision of always putting clients first. We are ready to help you put a confident retirement more within reach. Put the strength of a leader in retirement planning to work for you through a personal one-to-one relationship. Pat & Heidi & Associates will work with you to develop a plan to help you pursue your retirement goals. Call today at 908-713-6600. Office is located at 1318 Route 31 North, Annandale, New Jersey. Investment advisory products and services are made available through Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC.
I'm Andy Ross. I'm chairman of the Ambassadors Committee of the Chamber. As members of the Ambassadors Committee, we contact new and renewing members of the Chamber to get their feedback on their Chamber experience and make them feel more at home with the Chamber.
Hunterdon Chamber of Commerce, building business, one business at a time.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Counselors Chat. I am Ruth Altamura-Roll, your host for today's program. I have my master's in counseling. I'm nationally certified, and I am a licensed professional counselor with a small practice here in Flemington. And I'm talking to you today about brain health. So if we're talking about mental health, brain health is really one of the keys. So we want to make sure that our brain is functioning well. That means I am eating well. I'm getting enough nutrients to my brain so that it functions well. I'm exercising. Also, that helps my brain function better. I meditate. So meditation is really interesting. It's a very ancient practice. I talk a lot to my clients about meditation and mindfulness, and I'm going to say mindfulness especially, because mindfulness is something that we could do any time of the day. It actually helps our brain become more focused and quiets down things like anxiety and depression, racing thoughts, helps with post-traumatic stress a great deal. So what does mindfulness look like? Well, it's basically using my five senses: my sight, my taste, my touch, my smell, my hearing. So I could bring that to any activity that I am doing. Right now I'm sitting here talking to you. I feel the earphones pressure on my the headphones, the pressure on my head, I can feel that. For those of you that don't know, I've got a little ringing in this ear, but I do also hear my voice as I'm speaking. I don't necessarily smell anything except a little bit of the must of an old building. I don't taste anything. I haven't had anything recently, so if I had a mint in my mouth, I could say I'm tasting the mint. Sight, oh my gosh, I've got TV screens around me, different colors, different letters, different colored keys, massive wires. So when I bring myself to the present moment, and I actually focus on those things, it helps quiet my brain. So I suggest mindfulness to clients when they're doing simple tasks at home, things that we do by rote. I'm going to use that word. In other words, I'm so habitual in it, I don't think about what I'm doing. I don't think about taking a shower. I don't think about brushing my teeth. I don't think about making a cup of coffee. I don't think about folding laundry. I don't think about it. I'm so busy ruminating on other things that are going on in my life. Sometimes they're things from the past. Sometimes they might be current issues, or there may be things from the future that I have anxiety over. If I tell myself to stop and bring myself to the present moment and review what I'm actually doing. I'm cutting up carrots. What do they look like? What do they smell like? What do they taste like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? So that meditation is something that we can use in everything we do, and it actually helps us calm down. We can focus on our breathing. Again, it helps us calm down, and if we had a scan of our brain going on with anxiety and depression, would be lights flashing all over. When we work on mindfulness, it actually begins to calm down, and so that's really, really helpful. So that's important to good brain health. Sleep, very important to brain health. Now they say anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep is for optimum function during the day. One of the things that I say to people, and I know the younger generation really don't get it so much, but this might be a good example. And I've used this example in the past, but this is a new one that just came to mind for me. In the past, I would say, for those of you who remember when you'd go to work and you had big old computers and you had the computer room, you would generally have somebody who would batch things and put it in the computer, and overnight it would process it and update for the next day. Well, I just thought about it. Last night, my husband spent about 2.5 hours with his computer because it shut down and it updated. Now, all of us that have computers, which is the majority of us, know that periodically our computers update and then it shuts down and we have to turn it back on. I think that's a good example of the importance of sleep. What it does is we shut down. Our brain continues to function, and it's updating for the next day. So that term, we're just going to go sleep on it, really makes sense. I may have all kinds of things I'm trying to figure out and decide. I go to sleep at night, wake up and I have that's actually, I think I have an answer to that. So there's a whole lot of benefit from sleeping. We learn better. So we're at our cognitive peaks throughout the day if we get 7 to 9 hours sleep. It keeps us sharp and on our toes. Driving, if you get 5 hours of sleep, your driving is equal to that for someone who's had 2 or 3 cocktails. So it affects our motor activities if we don't get enough sleep. So part of good brain health is getting good sleep. So that's really important to keep in mind. So thinking, positive thinking, negative thinking, belief systems, a little bit of what I talked about last week if you're interested in finding out cognitive behavioral therapy. Look at my show from last Wednesday. But that is about how we think about something. And we can have a lot of negative thoughts. As a matter of fact, it's a question that I ask clients upon first meeting them. Tell me 5 positive things that you like about yourself. Tell me 5 things you like about yourself. Well, I would say oftentimes people have not been asked that question, and they sit and they ponder. Well, I like my hair. Okay. I like that I'm a good mom. Okay. That's not really what I'm looking for, but okay. I'm looking for, I have a great sense of humor. I like that I'm creative. I love that I'm caring for other people. Okay, 5 things. If I were to ask somebody, can you give me 5 things that you don't like about yourself? Oh, I get about 105 things. So that's an indication for me of your thought process. Are you thinking positively? Are you thinking negatively? Any of our thought processes, because sometimes we say, oh, we can't change that. Well, that's not true. Our negative thinking is just a thought. It's just a thought. It's a thought that we heard someone say about us. It may be that we heard our own parents say that about themselves. Like Mom would, so often she'd make a mistake and she'd go, stupid, I'm so stupid. So I learned how to do that, listening to her language. I don't do that anymore because I've learned to change. I know that doesn't work for me. And for the most part, it doesn't work for anyone. So we can learn that. We can learn negative self-talk from teachers and peers and aunts and uncles and siblings and parents, and we are so self-critical and we focus on the negative. I have clients who will say to me, if I don't have negative thoughts, I can't improve. I have to always punish myself to improve, which is not logical. That does not help us improve. The other thing is I've talked about neuroplasticity, meaning our brain can change. It's plastic. It's malleable. So if I have a habit of negative thinking, I can change it to positive thinking. Like I said, I'm creative. I have a good sense of humor. I'm warm. I'm welcoming. I'm a loving person. I care for others. I'm organized. I'm artistic and creative. I'm very capable. I'm really good at making decisions quickly. I loved learning new things. I mean, the list can go on and on. I make healthy choices for myself. Now, you see, I'm sitting here. I'm not reading any of that because I've practiced that. Now, there was a time in my life where if you asked me, I would have had no clue. But keep in mind, these are thoughts. And when I change the way I think, I'm actually helping with brain health. So positive thinking helps build my brain, helps me feel better about myself. And that's so important. Another aspect of having good brain health is having good relationships. So we know that the interaction that we have with other people can actually reinforce brain health. It turns out the more diverse types of people we have, the healthier our brain, because they challenge us to think creatively and experience new things. So having a diverse population of friends in your life, you get to experience new foods and new music and different holidays and different words and different ideas. And so all of that is about building your brain. Having good relationships at work, same thing. It does the same thing. Building those social situations, being volunteering at a nonprofit, helping out. All of that is about building good, healthy relationships. doing something that you enjoy, and I mean job-wise. So I can have a job, I get paid for it. It's no great shakes. I actually hate my job. That is not going to build good brain power. It's not going to build a healthy brain. It's going to actually contribute to things like depression and anxiety. So we want to do some career counseling possibly and find out what is it that I really want to do. It may mean I have to go back to school. Maybe I go volunteer somewhere. That's actually how I started as a counselor. I went to go volunteer at a youth shelter. And they actually hired me, which surprised me, but they hired me. And that began the whole process for me to become a counselor. And I think if I hadn't gone to volunteer, I may not be here today talking about mental health. I never thought about getting my master's in counseling and never thought about doing this kind of work. Even though I had been in counseling already, it just was not on the horizon in my mind. But I went and I volunteered, and here I am today, 35 years later, I guess. So I think that's an important thing. You never know if you go volunteer somewhere how, because the thing that I'm doing is I'm working with animals, and I just love that. And I didn't realize that there was a job opening, and now I've got some experience through volunteering, and now I'm in school for it. Next thing you know, okay, I'm working with animals. So you would be surprised how volunteerism can actually help with developing a career for yourself, one that is fulfilling, where you work with people that have exchange of good ideas. I'm always learning from other counselors. I belong to a counselor peer support group, and we're always learning from each other. Different techniques, different ways of advertising and reaching out to the public, different ways of self-care. All of those things is really, really important. So, brain health. I'm going to talk a little bit about traumatic brain injury. Now, traumatic brain injury often happens when there is some type of physical trauma to the brain. So the brain, it's an organ, like any other organ in our body, except that it can look at itself. But it's soft tissue. It's like soft butter. It's kind of amazing. It's very soft, and it's encased in this hard skull. And there's fluid that separates it from, which is why dehydration is not a good thing. It separates our brain from the skull. So there's this little layer of fluid. So our brain is kind of floating in our skull. And when we have a head injury, now a head injury can be from being tackled on the field, okay, falling, banging our head. When I was little, my cousin brought a garage door down on my head. Boy, did I see stars, okay? Those kinds of things can result in bruising, bleeding, torn tissue, and some kind of physical damage to the brain. Sometimes these injuries can be short-term. The brain does heal. Sometimes stroke, when you use that, is a possibility of a traumatic brain injury. Or it can have long-term damage, even to the point where it can change a person's personality. So some symptoms of brain injury, and generally that means there's been some kind of blow to the head, okay? And I'm not going to get brain injury if I bang my knee. I'm going to get brain injury if I bang my head. Again, my brain whacks up against my skull. So sometimes there's a loss of consciousness for a few minutes. You might see stars. You may actually pass out. Or you may feel dazed and confused, just kind of like that. You may find that you have a really bad headache. Like, oh man, I whacked my head on a cabinet door and I have such a headache. Okay. You may feel nauseous and have vomiting. You may feel really drowsy and fatigued. So if somebody has whacked their head somewhere and they have symptoms of a coma, you want to make sure they don't fall asleep. You don't want them to fall asleep and really go into a coma. You want to keep them awake. Problems with speech. So slurred words, that kind of thing. Can't remember a word. Difficulty sleeping or sleeping more than usual, and dizziness. So those are some physical symptoms. You may have some sensory symptoms like ringing in the ear, bad taste in the mouth, change in your ability to smell, problems with vision, sensitivity to light or sound. Or you may also have memory issues, problems with memory, mood swings, and again, feeling depressed or anxious. So if you have banged your head at all, because actually a really bad brain trauma can cause personality changes. I'm going to give you a history example. Now, many people know King Henry VIII of England, horrible tyrant, 6 wives, lots of heads, okay? He was at first considered like the prince of all princes. Good looking, tall, strong, well versed in languages, well read. He was a musician. He was a poet. He was athletic. He loved to dance. He was generous. He was caring. He was loving. He had an awful, awful jousting injury. Knocked him out. He was in a coma for 3 months. He woke up and he was somebody else. He became the tyrant that we know. That is a traumatic brain injury. So, of course, back then, nobody knew what was going on. But today we can look at that and say, oh, I see. It would be interesting to find out. O.J. Simpson. I don't know. Did he have traumatic brain injury from the football field? I don't know. It's just kind of interesting thing to think about. So wearing helmets when we bike, when we play games and all of that is an excellent thing. One problem with helmets is people tend to take extra chances or more risky because I've got a helmet on my head to protect me. It does not always work that way. The other thing that I do want to talk about in terms of brain health is Alzheimer's and dementia. I hadn't actually looked that up, but I'm going to look that up. Because again, Alzheimer's, that is a main brain issue. We can have dementia. We can have Parkinson's disease, also part of poor brain functioning. So with Alzheimer's, there's loss of memory that disrupts daily life. Basic things, getting, combing our hair, and where did we put the car keys, and did I mail things, and just really forgetting on who are you? I don't even remember your name. Having challenges in planning and problem solving. Difficulty with completing familiar tasks. Confusion with time and place. Having trouble understanding visual images or spatial relations. So I'm reaching for something, but either I overshot or undershot. I'm looking at something and I don't know what it is. problems with words, with speaking, with writing, misplacing things, poor judgment, which is why someone with Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's should not be in the kitchen, okay? Things like that. Mood changes and personality changes. So someone with Alzheimer's, they can get very angry, they can be accusatory, and someone who once had a very sweet personality may become nasty and mean, and even violent at times because of the Alzheimer's. And unfortunately, it's growing in our society. My mom, as I mentioned before, she's in assisted living, and one of the people at her dinner table has been there for a while, just was put into memory care, and that's really sad. A lot of the facilities, the memory care is just overflowing, and these are brain issues, and we want to have good brain health, so that's really important. So I need to take another break. I see that I'm kind of getting towards the end here, and so I need to make sure I get all of our sponsors in. I am Ruth Altamura-Roll, your host for Counselors Chat, and I will do these commercials in just a second.
You're listening to WHCR-DB, HunterdonChamberRadio.com, brought to you by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business.
Hey, Pat, did you know between the two of us, we know how to screw in a light bulb?
Come on, Steve. We can do better than that. Well, at least I can. Tell you what, you sit there and look pretty, and I'll fix it.
Listen to you, big guy. Better yet, let's get everyone to listen to Home Sweet Home with me, Steve Bailey, inspector with Brass Tack Home Inspections.
And I'm Pat Gregory, handyman extraordinaire with Taskman Home Improvements, every Friday at 11 a.m. Or you can go to our archives and get access to over 50 podcasts. We cover the basement to the attic and everything in between.
You can even call us at 908-237-0410 during our radio program about our home improvement projects. Remember, Home Sweet Home, every Friday at 11 on Hunterdon Chamber Radio.
From the basement to the attic, you're listening to Steve and Patrick. Home Sweet Home.
When it matters most, our award-winning team of emergency physicians and nurses provides sophisticated care 24 hours a day. Superior emergency care at a moment's notice. Hunterdon Healthcare, your full circle of care.
Advancing Hunterdon is an ever-sharp focus on the growth and prosperity of Hunterdon County's businesses. Advancing Hunterdon engages businesses within and throughout the county that are responsive to a call to action as the next chapter in business success. If your business and organization wants to get engaged, contact the Chamber today at 908-782-7115 or give us an email at info@hunterdon-chamber.org. Advancing Hunterdon, a roadmap for economic growth for the business community of Hunterdon.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Counselors Chat. I am Ruth Altamura-Roll, your host for today's program. I have my master's in counseling. I am nationally certified as a counselor. I am a licensed professional counselor. I have been in the field of counseling for 35 years, something like that. The first half of my career, I was in the drug and alcohol field mainly. My master's, I could say, I specialized in addiction. And I currently have a private practice here in Flemington. If you are interested in finding out more about what I do in my practice, you can find me on the web at www.altarollcounselor.net. That's Altaroll with 2 L's, counselor.net. I don't keep a waiting list. I deal with addictions. I deal with codependency, adult children of dysfunction or alcohol, people struggling with depression and anxiety, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress, anger management, couples counseling, just to name a few things. And please go on to Facebook and follow me on Counselors Chat. I would love to get some information, some feedback, any suggestions for a show. And you can even call me at 908-237-2899. That's 908-237-2899. Comment about Counselors Chat, or if you'd like to make an appointment, I always have room for you. So today, just kind of finishing up, I've been talking about brain health. June is National Brain Health Awareness Month, and so it's really important. Personally, I think it's the most important organ that we have in our brain and our body. And so it's the one that we need to take the best care of, and yet at the same time, it tends to be the last thing that we do, which is sad. So in terms of having good brain health, exercise, eat healthy, take vitamins. That's a good thing. Practice positive thinking. Work on having healthy relationships. Practice spirituality. I didn't really mention that, but I did talk about meditation, but I didn't add prayer or just that sense of awe that we might have in the world. Quit smoking. If you're smoking does not help our brain. Drinking alcohol, smoking pot, recreational pot, using any other kinds of drugs does not help our brain. Do a little research, find out what's healthy and what's not healthy. Get good sleep. And let me see. Broaden your education. See, I didn't talk on that one, but I did sort of. Learning things. The more we learn things, the better. And do brain exercises. Crossword puzzles and that kind of thing. Mental health has been my drumbeat, removing the stigma to, if you're struggling with anything, to please give me a call. I would love to hear from you. You do not need to suffer with any of these things. There is help and there is treatment. So I am Ruth Altamura-Roll, your host for Counselors Chat, and I will be back next week. And I do wish you all good mental health. Take care of that brain. When friends are not enough and you are struggling with depression, anxiety, or addictions, it's time to seek out help. Mental health is one of the most important building blocks to a healthy life. Tune into Counselors Chat every Wednesday at noon and listen to many topics that pertain to good mental health. With Ruth Altamura-Roll, a licensed professional